Looking at the Pittsburgh Penguins since the 2016 season, they've had much success throughout those seasons, winning 2 Stanley Cups, continuing the longest playoff streak currently in the NHL at 13 seasons, and have had much individual success as much as team success. Looking at the Penguins from the outside, we can all assume that their success was led by Sidney Crosby, who won 2 Conn Smythe trophies during those Stanley Cup wins. We can look at Evgeny Malkin, who has scored over a point per game in each of those seasons and led the team in playoff points in their second Stanley Cup run. We could look at Phil Kessel, which prior to being traded to the Phoenix Coyotes was one of the most dominant players in the NHL during the power play and was part of the most dominant lines, the HBK line, during the Penguins' first Stanley Cup run. Finally, we could look at Mike Sullivan, who was hired as their head coach after a mediocre start from the Penguins during their 2015-16 season and since has coached his way to 2 Stanley Cup wins. Well, I would agree with you. All of those factors led them to winning, but let's not forget that hockey is a team game. There are a ton of players and personnel that assisted in those mentioned previously that propelled the Penguins to win back-to-back cups and be one of the most dominant teams since the 2016 season. Today though, I want to talk about the most underrated star of them all that doesn't get the recognition he deserves because of the quality teammates he plays with, and his name is Jake Guentzel. Drafted in 2013, 77th overall, the Penguins sought him out as a long-term experiment. They had hoped for a decent center/left winger that had some upside who would eventually contribute to the Penguins' star-studded lineup for the foreseeable future. Well, having success in his second season for the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, the Pittsburgh Penguins called him up to see what he had. Of course, being the Penguins, they were derailed with injuries during the time, so calling up kids in the AHL was a common theme for them. What wasn't common was how he would make an impression compared to those previously called up. He would score not just 1 goal, but 2 in his first game. The first goal on his first shot. Now, not an Austin Matthews type of debut, but a glimpse as to what the NHL was to experience for the next 30+ seasons. In his first 40 games played in the NHL during the 2016-17 season, his numbers were borderline elite for a rookie. 33 points total, 15 goals during 5-on-5 play, and 27 points from 5-on-5 play. Now, his shooting percentage was high that season at a staggering 21.13%, but if you compare it to his shooting percentage throughout his career at a 15.46%, it's not that far off. We can go into detail about some other numbers stating that he had a little impact with the power play during that season, but that showcases his overall impact more. Just coming into his own, he had already made an impression on the team, and that was prior to the 2016-17 playoffs. Did I mention that he led the team in goals scored throughout those playoffs and was 1 goal shy of tying the NHL rookie record for the most goals scored throughout the playoffs? Mind you, he had as many clutch goals for the Penguins than anyone on the team did, especially during the finals during Game 1 and 2, where he had both game winners. It was a wonderful season for the kid, and it wouldn't stop there. Now, in his own words, Guentzel stated that he had a poor season in 2017-18, but I would reject that claim based on his numbers. Though he had 14 goals 5-on-5 in 82 games played, he still had 34 points total in the amount of games. His Corsi for that year was over 53%. Just to clarify, Corsi for is how many shot attempts, blocked, shots missed, shots on goal, so on and so forth, compared to the shot attempts against. Being over the 50% area is always a plus, but getting towards the 55% range is where the elite players are at. That year, however, where he really shined was in the playoffs. In the 12 games played, he tallied over 21 points and 10 goals. One game I want to break down is his 4-goal game during the Flyers series in Game 6 in the first round. This game had all the storylines to lead to a Game 7, but the Penguins and Guentzel had other plans. Like I stated previously, the Flyers had taken control over the game that most, at the time, would think that would have led to a Game 7. They were down 2-1 during the first period, then all of a sudden took a commanding 4-2 lead at the 7:46 mark in the second period. Being on the road and allowing 3 straight goals is usually suicide. crowd is in a frenzy, the home team players are hyped up, and the away team is looking for answers. Well, the Penguins had Jake Guentzel up their sleeves, and the next 5 goals scored directly involved him. Let's break down the first of the 5 goals. He didn't score here, but he had the awareness to see the play in front of him and make a beautiful pass to Patrick Hornqvist. The play starts off with a terrible play by Radko Gudas making a poor attempt to clear the puck from the zone. Olli Maatta reads the play well and keeps the puck within the O-zone, allowing Crosby to gather up the puck. Where is Guentzel in all of this? He just went on the ice after Zach Aston Reese went off. Let's look at Guentzel's high hockey IQ here. First, he notices that Olli came up to the blue line, so what does he do? He starts off by covering for Maatta, staying on the blue line playing second defender. He then follows that by seeing how Maatta keeps the puck within the O-zone. So noticing that the Flyers are at a 3-on-2 disadvantage, he jumps into the play. Now most forwards here would drive to the net, especially if they knew that Sidney Crosby had the puck. But that isn't what Guentzel does. He opens up his hips, but stays within the slot to allow himself to receive the pass from Crosby. He then assesses the play, waits till Hornqvist is in position, and finally makes a gorgeous pass that leads to a goal. This play alone was huge, stopping any type of momentum the Flyers had gained after scoring their 4th goal. He didn't stop there, and though it wasn't a difficult goal, this next goal showcases his IQ once again. Simple hustle plays are the norm for hockey players, especially from the bottom 6 of any starting lineup. They create momentum and also allow the team to dictate their will against the opposing team. But you won't find too much of it from the top 6 of a starting lineup, though they should, especially in the playoffs. This play, however, displays Guentzel's hockey IQ as well as his increased game as the playoffs were underway. 20 seconds into the first shift of the 3rd period, the Penguins' first line starts to come off the ice. It's an understandable move by Mike Sullivan given the circumstance that it's a tie game and Sullivan wants to deploy all 4 lines consistently. Also, it doesn't help that Malkin is out of the lineup and Carl Hagelin isn't on the bench at the moment, so making a quick change to rest your elite players is a must. So the play starts off with Crosby coming off the ice as well as Hornqvist. So Guentzel, reading the play on the far end, he pressures both Flyers D-men to allow for the change to occur and not allow the Flyers to have easy access within his D-zone. That alone would make any coach happy, but Guentzel goes even further. He then pressures the Flyers defenseman, Andrew MacDonald, followed by finishing his check on MacDonald, ultimately taking him out of the ensuing play. Then, instead of going straight to the bench to change for the next forward, he assesses the play in front of him, knowing that his other 2 forwards were bound to be on the ice, and notices that Kessel has forced a turnover. Now, knowing that he took MacDonald out of the play for the split second after the check, he gets on his horse, stays parallel to Kessel, and finally displays his level of skill by elevating the puck after receiving the pass from Kessel. You know, for insurance purposes, just in case Michael Neuwirth was able to push off and get into a position to make a save from the cross-crease pass. It didn't happen, and Guentzel would score his 2nd of the game. This sequence would only take 10 seconds, but Guentzel's awareness and hustle was on full display on this one. Not to brag, but he would follow that by scoring 2 more goals in this game, sending the Flyers back to their hotels while he would prepare for the Penguins' next series against the Capitals. In moments like that, he ups his game, and that's just a few examples of his underrated skill. The few hockey analysts out there that have mentioned Guentzel while talking about the Penguins' recent success usually mention the following. Guentzel is riding high with Crosby. Crosby carries the team with Guentzel supporting his dominance. Guentzel is Robin to Crosby's Batman. While I don't disagree in some instances, I believe they don't give enough credit to Guentzel's overall play. Look, there is without question that Guentzel wouldn't have reached 40 goals in the 2018-19 season without the help of Crosby. Heck, I would even say that Crosby wouldn't have reached 100 points without Guentzel's help. Both players work in tandem, and their chemistry is through the roof. But to say that Guentzel wouldn't be as dominant if he didn't play without Crosby is straight up larceny. It frustrates me to no end when I hear these discussions because A, they don't watch him play enough, or B, they give too much praise to Crosby. Both players are fantastic, and we also know that Crosby has already cemented himself into the Hockey Hall of Fame. But to discredit Guentzel's play is irritating. I want to look at some numbers and show how important Guentzel is to Crosby and to his teammates when he is on the ice versus when he is off the ice. What better season to look at? None other than the most recent one. If you didn't know, Crosby was injured, so Guentzel played with Malkin for a short time. Of course, being the Penguins and never having a set of healthy players for long durations, Guentzel found himself injured. So there are plenty of numbers to show how valuable he was to Crosby as well as to the team. Here I posted a graph to explain how Jake plays with his teammates, without his teammates, and those teammates play without him. Long story short, every player's play dramatically increases when paired up with Guentzel, while their play dramatically decreases when they aren't paired up with him, including Crosby. Also, a final note, his play without his teammates does drop, but based on the graph's numbers, his play still is positive compared to his teammates. Look, this isn't to beat on the other Penguins players, but rather to showcase how well they play with Guentzel. He isn't just a lone star, but a player that elevates his teammates around him to play to their best abilities. There is a shift I want to break down where he displays his level of skill, as well as his level of hockey awareness. This play in particular also shows his ability to make those around him elevate their level of play. So this was game 30 for the Penguins during the 2019-20 season, and at this point, they were starting to find their game. The line of Malkin, Rust, and Guentzel were mowing down teams, and this was another moment where their combined skill and speed was on display. After Malkin wins the faceoff, you can clearly see on the left side of the faceoff circle that Guentzel gets on his horse, a common theme for him, and hustles to get in front of the net in order to take away the goalie's vision from a Marcus Pettersson shot from the point. He doesn't get there in time, but his pursuit doesn't stop there. He keeps on the jets, skates towards the deflected shot, and forces defenseman Dennis Chalowski to softly chip the puck up the wall, allowing Pettersson to get another shot from the point. Watching Guentzel at this moment, he assesses the play, hangs back in a support role for Rust and Malkin while they pursue the puck carrier. He then notices Pettersson pinch along the boards, so he starts to skate back and covers for his defense's partner, but then also has the awareness to see the puck in the air near him, to then bat it out of the air on his backhand. Finally, Malkin being Malkin scores. That whole sequence was just Guentzel providing support for every player on the ice not named Chad Ruhwedel. This play was a microcosm as to how he plays with or without Crosby as his partner in crime. I'm going to be straight with you guys. Even knowing that I am a bit biased, it depends on who you ask, Jake the Snake Guentzel is a stud. He's an underrated star that doesn't get the recognition he deserves because of the talent that the Penguins have. He came into the NHL and started off with a bang. He rode that wave into the ensuing playoffs and cemented himself as one of the best goal-scoring rookies in NHL history during those playoffs. He then followed that high with every pursuing year by beating his numbers consistently and hasn't looked back. Now with the NHL season returning, hopefully, and with a healthy Jake after a horrible shoulder injury derailing his fantastic play during the 2019-20 season, the Penguins are a formidable threat to anyone in the Eastern Conference. Hopefully other teams are aware as much as the Penguins are of how great of a player Jake Guentzel is. He is, without a doubt, an underrated star. So what do you guys think of Guentzel? Am I exaggerating his play, or did I hit it right on the nose? Please leave your thoughts and comments in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications bell to get notified when I post new content like this. Thanks everyone, and I'll be posting soon. Peace!